by 68, 69, I was older, had admitting in the military, knowing what liars they were, and we were all of us guys my age, we all hated it and were very cynical, and we knew they were lying, and we knew that Vietnam was just a bunch of crap. It was pretty well known the Gulf of Tonkin thing was a lie that started it in 64. Now, you can't even use the word wrong. War is wrong. This was a total sham, total waste, total corrupted lie, from rotten from the inside out, and kids were getting killed every stinking day.
They kept talking about the domino theory. That's why they said that they were there. That if we didn't save Vietnam, it was going to lead to that would fall, and then the next country would fall, and the Philippines would fall, and communists would have a stronger balance in the world than the democracies. And they said we had to stand firm there. I didn't quite understand that theory, and it turned out to be crap. It wasn't true. That country did become communist and seems to have a better economy and a better life for its people than what it ever had before when the French and the Americans were there.
And you felt guilty if you had any kind of sense of right and wrong. I think most of people like myself that managed to stay out of combat type jobs, you kind of felt a little bit, you certainly felt lucky and fortunate, and some people you kind of felt a little bit guilty, because how did you get to luck out and the other guys didn't? The other poor saps that just got drafted and sent in combat.
And life in America really wasn't the same as it was in Vietnam. If you ask any of the Vietnam veterans when they came back, it was like life went on here. People went to the Dairy Queen and they went to dances and the shows. And these guys came back from Vietnam. They'd been in a war zone, and they got off the plane and they looked around, and there was no war in the United States. It's like, I don't know, it was like it wasn't really related to us.
What did they learn from Vietnam about the draft?
That everything the government says is a lie. Everything that they cloak in some kind of a shroud of patriotism and duty and sense of obligation is all based on some scoundrel's lies and money, pocketing money at your expense. When I got home, it was the normal thing on the news for 300 to 500 Americans get to be killed a week in Vietnam, and they would say that just as matter-of-factly as what you hear on the news now when they talk about 3, 5, 8, 9 over in Iraq and Afghanistan. It's unbelievable how quickly this can just be, and it's just a normal accepted thing. It's just like it's an Alice in Wonderland environment that's it's unexplainable. It's unbelievable. It's impossible to explain how incredibly confusing it is. This idiocy, you just can't believe that this could be happening, that these people could allow, that the citizenry would allow this.
Oh, I think, it's like Rhett Butler said in Gone with the Wind, that there's an awful lot of money to be made on wars by companies and people who supply materials. And I think when the economy goes bad in the country, they start a war. That's what I think it's all about oil and money.
The right-wing propaganda machine was very effective in turning people's minds around about so-called liberal tax and spend Democrats, they called them. They weren't going to talk about Ford and Nixon before that. The right wing was determined after the Nixon resignation. They had to take control again. Reagan was in for 8. Democrats flocked in droves and voted for him while he proceeded to screw over the blue-collar working people and set the working class back 40 years in terms of the gains they had made. Rolled back all kinds of labor laws, lack of enforcement. Meanwhile, another generation had grown up, and they were fully bombarded with all this conservative propaganda. The Vietnam era group, my group who was having the kids, were looked at as dinosaurs. We were just looked at as a bunch of pot-smoking, drug addict, screwed up assholes that got screwed over and screwed up from Vietnam. Not because Vietnam was wrong, we were the jerk-offs. Right wing lumped us all in under the pot-smoking hippies, anti-government, anti-war, anti-American. That was the phrase they used. Anything that didn't agree with the Republican Party, the conservatives, was considered anti-American, and they hammered on that and hammered on it. The reality is sheer total greed for power and wealth. That's their sole function. They serve wealth,
And what do they have?
and they have succeeded. They've brilliantly created this mental atmosphere of conservatism among the working class. They've brilliantly succeeded in people thinking that to even question, think differently from that mainstream, what they've created as a mainstream conservative thought, is to somehow to be anti-American. Meanwhile, they've amassed all the wealth and resources into fewer and fewer hands. It's primarily fascism. Mussolini coined that term. Fascism means corporate control over society. And that's precisely what you have today.